Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and what you're looking at is a 2007 Toyota Prius. So we've had this car for quite a long time and it's been pretty good to us, but lately here the air conditioning has been giving us trouble, and so I refilled it and it lasted about 2 months, and then I tried to refill it again. It wouldn't last more than a day or two, so there's definitely a leak somewhere that's quite significant, but I'm not sure exactly where it is. But after looking around here and there, I realized there was some damage to the condenser or the radiator of the air conditioning. And if we look in the bumper here on the lower part, you guys can see maybe right there's some pretty bad weirdness going on with it. It's like a gouge in the AC. And I think this vehicle has been repaired before or been in an accident. Even though it does have a clear title, I can definitely tell, that something's been wrong with. Like the bumpers don't line up. There's overspray here and there. As you can see here, like the bolts have been removed and there's scratches here. This fender's definitely been repainted. So I'm thinking maybe the radiator was compromised in the accident, but they didn't change it and just reused it because it was fine, and maybe it was weak or whatever. So I'm hoping the radiator's bad. I already went ahead and ordered one and it should be here shortly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this apart, the front bumper. That way we can get to the radiator really easy. There's just probably no other way to do it. And we'll replace that, put it all back together, and hopefully that'll fix our issue, but we'll see. I did buy a kit of Freon, and let me show you that. So this is a kit made by EnviroSafe, and I got this on Amazon. I'm going to leave the links in the description for all this stuff. So it comes with 3 R134A bottles that are, let's see, 6 ounces. And they do have dye in them, which is awesome because if we do have a leak, we'll be able to find it. So there's 3 bottles of that. And then there's also an oil bottle for the oil charge, and I don't know if I should be using this on a Prius, but we'll see. And then we also have a stop leak. My idea here is, put one in and see what happens, and then if there is an issue, maybe try to use the stop leak also. So it also came with the little thermostat to measure how cold the air is coming out of the vent, I guess. And then this hose with a super nice gauge here that'll tell us the pressure of the system here, and it does hook up to the low side, and then this goes into the bottle. So yeah, I'm hoping all this stuff will work out and we can get this car having air conditioning again. Alright, so I'm just going to start pulling things off. So this will come off and then we'll start getting the bumper off. Alright, so I just popped out all the clips and this should just come right up. And just like that. And here we can see why I was telling you guys earlier that this car was repaired, because if you look at the hoses, you can see that they're silver from somebody spray painting this, I guess, with a can. So most likely this radiator support was changed to an aftermarket one, or maybe just repaired. I'm not sure. Usually original frames like this would not rust this easy, while the rest of the car is fine. So most likely this whole thing was changed and just not sealed really well. And you guys can tell that even that horn over there is painted silver. So alright, so the next part, what we're going to do is we're going to take these clips off over here, and then there's going to be some bolts to take off here on the side, and there's probably some stuff underneath too. So in any case, but eventually this bumper should come off and then we'll be able to see the radiator a lot better. Alright, so I'm very close of getting the bumper off. There's a bolt here, and then there's like a few bolts underneath there, or more like screws, I guess, and there was one here. So let's see if we can get this bumper off. There we go. So we probably still need to disconnect our fog lights. Careful with that, not to stretch the wiring too much. There we go. Alright, and that's it. The whole bumper just comes off. Let's get this bumper out of the way. Alright, so now we can see what we need to see a lot better, which is this radiator right here for the air conditioning. We can check all these places and see if was any signs of leakage, and it doesn't appear to be so. The other one is right here, and it looks okay too. So I don't think it's in the connectors. I'm hoping that it's over here. If you look at that, guys, that whole radiator is really messed up. There's like a gouge in it, and the fins are bent. So I'm hoping that's what's causing the issue. So this is why I decided to go ahead and change the radiator anyway, even if it's not it, because it just doesn't look very healthy. Alright, so it looks like the next thing we need to do is we need to take off this whole piece here, and it looks like it just has 1, 2, 3 bolts here. Well, actually, looking at it closer, it looks like we're going to have to take the lock off, and then there's another bolt behind that. In any case, that shouldn't be hard, just a 10mm. Unplug some of these things like the horn, and then this little temperature sensor, I think, is what that is. Alright, so that was a simple process. There were 3 bolts in the hood release lock here, and then there's a bolt behind that. and then one down there. And then this whole bracket just comes out. Now before I disconnect this, I want to see if there's any pressure in there. And what I'm thinking is using this gauge here that was included with that kit and put it on there and see if it reads anything. So we're just gonna unscrew the low pressure little cap there. And then this thing should just pop right on there. And we should be able to see a reading maybe, I don't know. Okay guys, so there is pressure and it's coming out. It's not very much though. So just whatever was left in there. So I guess whatever leak we were having, it's very pressure dependent. Because at lower pressures, I think it was about 20 here or a little less. It was still holding pressure at that. Unless that was just random air that was compressed by the compressor that was trapped, I'm not sure. But in any case, it all ran out and there was barely anything in there. So yeah, looks like we are good to take these connectors off and disassemble the whole radiator. So after looking at it a little bit closer, I think I will need to take off this frame piece right here. And the reason I'm thinking that is because I think there's brackets holding together with the radiator maybe. That's not gonna let me have it really easy. And plus there's a little lip here, so. All right, so I took all the bolts out, 1, 2, and then took this bracket off here, loosened that bracket, 3, 4, and then I had to loosen that bracket too so I can move this whole inverter up like that so I can get this out. So yeah, now it literally just comes out. We still have the horn connected to it. So yeah, well, it looks like we definitely needed to take that off because we have to work around this little bracket here that's wasted from rust. Well, hopefully we can get that off without too much trouble. All right guys, so here's the situation. I got the bolts from here where I tried to get them out and they both broke on each end. So now the condenser is loose, but I can't get these Phillips off because they're just way too rusted. Now on the bottom we have the same kind of problem. So we need to get these Phillips out, but there's no way. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to chop them off somehow. Maybe with a grinder, I'm thinking. And then here I'll have to just get new hardware. So I'm gonna obviously try to salvage this bracket. So I don't wanna bend it or move it too much. And then I got the bolts off of these two inlet and outlets. They should just come right off. They're already loose actually. So I'm just leaving them on there for now. I don't want dirt and stuff getting on it while I'm working on trying to get these brackets off. So. Alright guys, so with a lot of struggle and pulling it around and stuff like that, it's coming out finally. I got 2 connectors off and I taped them off with some electrical tape so no dirt gets on them. So finally this thing is coming out. And that's the damage I was talking about right there. And it's actually, the whole thing is kind of warpy. Of course I might have done that trying to pull it out. But this part right here was already here. You guys see all these shavings in here? Those are actually aluminum fins from the radiator. So this thing is either old or cheap quality. I mean, you just poke holes right through it. It's like it's not even holding together anymore. And look at that. Just made a huge hole in it. The aluminum pieces, it's literally disintegrating just by touching it. So yeah, this thing is really old and has to go. So I'm hoping this is where my leak is. And I'm trying to see if this is a Toyota radiator or an aftermarket. I have a feeling this is an aftermarket one because I don't believe a Toyota radiator would do this even after this many years. I mean, this car is not that old. It's 2007, so. In any case, so we finally got that out. Did a little damage to our brackets. We're gonna have to work on, clean them up so our new radiator can go in there. And then we're gonna have to get new bolts for these brackets also. But yeah, other than that, it's all gonna be okay. Just need to clean all this up. The radiator should be coming in tomorrow. So once it comes in, we're gonna start the installation process. All right guys, and check out what just arrived. It's the condenser radiator. So it looks like it's made by a company called Sunbelt Radiators. And it came all the way from Florida. So let's open it up and see what it looks like. It doesn't seem to be damaged. There are huge fragile, do not stack, do not crush signs. All right, seems to be boxed very well. Oh wow, this thing is black. It actually kind of looks like it's remanufactured maybe, the way this finishes over here. It does have caps on the ports to keep the moisture out, and it is strapped down to this other box. So yeah, very nicely shipped. Alright, let's cut these bands off. Now you definitely want to be a little bit more careful of the new radiator and not damage it. So it looks like we have a little sticker here. And you know, this does look like it's maybe used. I don't know. Unless it's just manufactured like that. That's kind of weird. In any case, it doesn't matter. Point is that we have a new radiator to go back in. And this piece over here, by the way, guys, is where the dryer is, I guess. So it's part of the radiator. And so that takes out moisture from inside of the system. So I'm going to try to figure out what I'm going to do here. And yeah, we're going to proceed to installing this thing in reverse order. Alright, so I started the process of putting it back in, and obviously I ran into trouble with my mountings, and that's for a reason, obviously, because they're all rusted. If we look at the bolt here, it's actually stuck in there because that nut over there is welded to the other side, so there's no way of getting out. So what I did is I decided to use zip ties to connect all this together. So these are pretty heavy duty zip ties, rated for 50 pounds, so they should be just fine here for probably the rest of this car's life. And all I did was I drilled 2 holes into this plastic here, as you can see on this side right here, a hole here and a hole there, and that's where the zip ties goes. And then, you know, this thing will just go back to its own. And then I'll use a zip tie to go around, and then I'll zip tie it just like over here. And then to the radiator, I just zip tied it like that. So obviously I could have got bolts for the radiator and made it nicer, but I have to go out and get those and find them, so I figured this is probably sufficient. I could actually add another strap here, but I don't think it's necessary, honestly. And the bottom is actually quite solid and not really moving anywhere because it kind of sat in its old place. So I'll just bend those brackets over and maybe throw a zip tie down there also, just to make sure that it's holding. But yeah, so hopefully your mounts are not as bad as mine, and you know, this, you won't have to do all this weird stuff to it. But in any case, I'm determined to put this thing together and see if we can fix our air conditioning problem. Alright, so I got both of the brackets in, and it's very solid, so I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And I actually got a couple zip ties down there too, going around the whole thing. So it's not going anywhere, it's safe. So I think it's going to be just fine right where it is. Alright, so for the next part, we need to take these 2 covers off, connect our main lines to the 2 ports. Alright, so I got the lines connected, and I think that's all we really need to do in order to charge this thing and test it out. I don't want to put everything back together. You know, if my AC will leak out, it'll be a lot easier to find it with everything apart. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this gauge to the low pressure side over here. So as we're filling it, we should be able to see how much pounds we're putting in there. I guess that's what that is, pounds, or anyways, pressure. Yeah, it is PSI. So we need to be anywhere 35 to 40 maybe. So 40 should be probably max. So I think what I'm going to start off with is with one of these regular Freons with dye. And the reason I want to do that is because, you know, if there is a leak somewhere, we'll be able to see on the first bottle instead of wasting all these other bottles. So what we're going to do is tighten the bottle onto the fitting here. Just make sure this is all the way up. And now we're going to screw it down to puncture a hole in this in the bottle here, and then screw it back out, and it should release the Freon into the system. It's probably a good idea to start the car and turn the air conditioning on. So, but I'm going to go ahead and initiate it here. That way everything's going, and then I'll go quickly inside and start the car. So right now we're punching a hole in it. I can feel it. And now we're just unscrewing it, and it should start releasing. And there it goes. So it's going in. So I'm going to go start the car right quick. Alright, so the car started and the AC's on. So I'm going to go ahead and release this some more. And you guys can see that we're getting some pressure out of this bottle. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this all the way. The bottle's getting cold in my hand. So we're sitting at 40 right now. It's about where it needs to be. I don't know if you need to do this or not, go up and down, but it seems to be working. Just in case there's stuff in there like that dye that needs to come out. But I think pretty much that bottle's out. I can feel it's empty. So we're not changing pressure over there. Okay, yeah, so I think we're good. So what we need to do now is completely tighten this so it isolates it from there, from the bottle. Alright, so we're running about 34 pounds right now, which is pretty decent. And over here on our looky glass, we can see there's stuff moving in there. It seems to be working. The pressure did drop a little more, but our pipe over here is really cold. So I think it's working, guys. Alright, so I'm going to unscrew this bottle and screw another one in. But it looks like we are holding pressure around 30 right now. Well, before we do anything else, let's put this thermostat in a vent so we can see how cold it's coming out. So I'm just going to put it in here, in one of the vents. So we have light here. So right now it's reading around 40 something, and it's definitely blowing cold. Very cold actually, but we'll see how low that goes. And we are still holding 30 after about 5 minutes of running. So I realized you can't put another bottle in unless you unscrew this. And you can't unscrew this because the Freon will come out, so we have to unplug this every time we put a new bottle in. I had to unplug that and then plug it back in, put the new bottle in. So let's go ahead and release it. And it should go up in pressure here. There it goes. Alright. I'm going to put it upside down also. Alright, so our pressure is much higher now. And actually our compressor sped up for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because of the higher pressure. Alright, so our pressure fell. It seems like some kind of valve opened and it all just went somewhere. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but I think this bottle is empty now. So we are hovering about 34 pounds right now. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect it since we're done with it. And that's the rest of it coming out. So yeah, it looks like we're right around 40 there. Well, that's pretty good. That's actually quite cold. So if it could stay like that, that would be excellent. Actually feels really icy in here. Oh yeah, it's definitely doing it. I mean, it's kind of warm outside. You can see 86, and it's cold in here. 40 is cold. So it looks like it's doing the trick, guys. So I'm just gonna let it run like this for maybe about 30 minutes or so, and we'll see what happens. All right, guys. So quite a amount of time passed by, and I put this on thinking that maybe I'll add a little more, but after researching the Prius, the maximum is supposed to be 33 and the minimum 22 on the low side, so we're pretty much at the maximum there, so I don't think we need to add any more. I guess somehow just the 2 bottles that we put in was for some reason plenty for it. And by the way, guys, you definitely don't want to put the oil in because Prius has special oil in it and this will probably mess it up. So just don't put oil in it at all if you need to add. And by the way, this pipe here is super cold, like it's ice cold. So let's go inside the vehicle and check what the temperature is. Alright, as you can see, it is still on 40 and it's been there the whole time. So we've cooled down just a little bit outside, but the air continues to blow ice cold out of these vents. So around 40 degrees cold. So surprisingly, somehow those 2 bottles did it. I'm just gonna leave it alone, put all the parts back together on the front end and use it for a few days, and I'll give you guys an update and see how it's holding up.